Alright, grade 8. So what I'm doing is just going through the last page of the unit 4, determining the rule for number patterns. So the given formula, if you want to say, or method on your worksheet is that. But what I'm working with is a formula that you're going to use in grade 9, 10, 11, 12 if you carry on with maths. It's Tn equals A plus D into n minus 1. A is equal to the first number in the pattern. So if we look here, 5, 10, 1, negative 9, all the beginning of the pattern would be your A value. D is your constant difference, so what you're going up or down in. Tn is the value in the number pattern. So 14, 4, 7, that is a Tn. N is a position within the pattern. So number 5 here in this pattern is the first place, so its n is 1. But 14 is in the fourth place, its n is 4. So n is the position. So to use this formula for this first number pattern, there's the first number pattern. The first thing I want you to work out is the constant difference. So how do you get from 5 to 8? We've gone up 3, positive 3. 8 to 11, we've added 3. 11 to 14, we've added 3. If you're not sure, so I'm going to label these T1, T2, T3, T4. So T2 is term 2, T3 term 3. So if you want, you can say term 2 minus term 1, or term 3 minus term 2, or term 4 minus term 3. Any one after minus the one before will give you your constant difference. So for example, I can say 8 minus 5, that gives me 3 as my difference. That's T2 minus T1. So now we have our constant difference of positive 3. Then I want you to find your A value. Your A value is your first term, your first number in the pattern, which is 5. So 1 is the position, 5 is the value. So 5 is the Tn, the n is 1 at that position. But now we're trying to make a general rule for this question. So we're going to work with Tn equals A plus D into n minus 1. So you are going to find, what's my first number in this pattern? It is 5. What is my difference? It is 3. And then n minus 1. So now we've got to do a little bit of multiplication. As soon as you have brackets, you've got to multiply into the brackets. We call it distribution. So 5 will stay there. 3 times n, we say it's 3n. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Now we group like terms. So there's only 3n. 5 minus 3 is positive 2. 5 minus 3. So the formula for this is Tn is equal to 3n plus 2. So now if you wanted to work with the formula, let's say you wanted to know what the third number was in the pattern. Now we can see it's supposed to be 11, but let's use our formula. You would say T3 is going to be 3 times 3, because n is the position number. I want to know what the third number is going to be. So the third number, n is 3 plus the 2. So I've just put it into the formula. So 3 times 3 is 9 plus 2 is going to give us 11. Which if you look at the original pattern, 1, 2, third number is 11. So in that case we have our formula that gets us back to the correct number. So this formula works. So the whole point of this question is to just get a formula, a rule in terms of maths rules to be able to work out any number in this pattern. So if I asked you for the 100th number, you can say T100 is 3 times 100 plus 2, which will give you 302. Instead of having to go back to the pattern and add 3 on until you get to that 100th number. Alright, so when we look at the rest of the patterns now, so we have 10, 7, 4, and 1. So I'm going to do number 2 here. 10, 7, 4, and 1. Your first job is to find your constant difference and your a value, and then you're going to use your Tn equals a plus d into n minus 1. Now, this is going to be 10 going down to 7, I have minus 3. I have minus 3. Minus 3. So my difference is negative 3. If you couldn't figure it out, you label them. Term 1, term 2, term 3, and T2 minus T1. 7 minus 10 is negative 3. My a value, my first number in my pattern is 10. And then you're going to subs it in. Careful here, please make sure you have a bracket so that it doesn't look like you're subtracting only. We need to multiply. Do brackets first. Negative 3 times n is negative 3n. Negative times negative is positive 3. Then, when we're working with the like terms, we're going to group anything with n's. Can't do anything there. 10 plus 3 is 13. So that is my rule. That will be able to work out any number in that number pattern without having to keep minusing 3, minusing 3. You can just work it out straight away. Alright, I'm going to move a bit quicker through the rest. So number 3, 1, 7, 13. First job, I've added 6. So my difference is 6. My a value is 1, the first number. So Tn is equal to a plus d into n minus 1. So it's 1 plus 6 into n minus 1. And we don't fill in the n here because we want to make it for any n value. So we're going to keep it n so that we can then choose what n to fill in. So brackets first, 6 times positive n is 6n. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Group it, 6n, and then the two numbers will work together. And that gets us 1 minus 6 is negative 5. So Tn is my rule there. Alright, number 4. Negative 9, 1, 11, 21. So now with this one, if you're a bit nervous of the negative numbers, you can take any of the terms and work with them for your difference. So you can say T3 minus T1. And so that's going to be, T2. 11 minus 1 is 10. If you did T2 minus T1, it would have been 1 minus a negative 9, which becomes 1 plus 9, which is 10. So my difference is 10. My a value is negative 9. So then when I'm working out the Tn value, Tn is equal to a plus d into n minus 1, and then you're going to just put in, you're going to substitute. So we're going to work with negative 9 plus, our difference is 10, into n minus 1. Brackets first, so it's 10n minus 10. So then I'm left with 10n, and then my two numbers, negative 9 and a minus another 10, is negative 19. So there's my rule for number 4. Alright, so now when we're working with any of these patterns that have a constant difference, that's when we can use this formula. If it doesn't have a constant difference, then sometimes it's going to be one of those categories on that first page, like perfect squares, etc. So let's see if any of those come up. So 7, 9, 11, 13. Let's see. No, we're going up in 2's here. So my difference is 2. My a value is 7. So Tn equals a plus d into n minus 1. And then we can say 7 plus 2 into n minus 1. It's going to be 7 plus 2n minus 2. 2n goes by itself, and you group the numbers, and that is positive 5. So Tn, 2n plus positive 5. Now for the next one, we've got to watch out here. It's 1, 4, 9, 16. Right. So this is one where you won't be able to find a constant difference, because here we're going up in 3, but then it's 5, and then it's 7. So this one won't work with Tn equals a plus d into n minus 1. That won't work, because that's only if we have a constant difference. I don't have a constant difference here. I have something that is 3, 5, 7. So let's look carefully at this pattern. You should be able to recognize it as a perfect square. And all this one is that you take your first term, T1 is 1 squared, T2 is 2 squared, T3 is 3 squared. So Tn is going to be n squared for my perfect squares. T4 is 4 squared, T5 is 5 squared, T6 would be 6 squared. So we're saying Tn will be n squared. Saying any number I put in any position is going to give me the value of the perfect square. So it's one that you can learn off by heart. So for the perfect cubes, which is the next one, also learn it. It's 1, 8, 27, 64. Those are our perfect cubes. Definitely not a constant difference. So we recognize these as our perfect cubes. So this T1 is 1 squared, T2 is 2 squared, T3 is, sorry, not squared, 1 cubed, 2 cubed, 3 cubed. So T4 cubed gets us 64. So Tn must be n cubed. So it's also one that you can study off by heart, the rule. You cube the position that you're in. So if you want to know what the 8th number is, you can just say 8 cubed. And that will give you the number. The value in the pattern is Tn. Alright, so that covers all of the patterns on that worksheet. So when you're determining the rule for the patterns, first check if you have a constant difference, meaning you're adding or subtracting the same number again and again. Or if you've got perfect squares or perfect cubes, those follow the rules that you can study off by heart. And then the rest you can use the formula, the Tn equals a plus d into n minus 1. So go and practice for exercise 4.5, and then afterwards you can work on the revision exercise on page 51. Now just also think sometimes they might throw you a weird one. So it doesn't always have to follow one of the rules. If you can see something, think out of the box, go for it. As long as if you put one of the numbers in and test it, it works out, then you're fine. So you'll be able to put the positioning number in and get out the correct pattern number. So n is the positioning number, you'll get out a Tn is the correct number. Alright, but we will be finishing this up next term, so this is just something for you to go through. The memos are also up on the Google Classroom page.